one of the main things that we're doing right now is the rapid response, where we go out to the streets, we respond to ICE sightings, where we go and we support these families that have been arrested, detained, kidnapped by federal agents, or just a random person that says it's a federal agent. We provide support to these families, not only by being there and making sure they know their rights, but also connecting into other resources that they need.
So my initial reason towards going into immigration work has always been trying to do the work that would help my community. My parents were immigrants that came into the United States who now have some form of lawful status. And so it's always been an inspiration to try to help other families also obtain this kind of security. In the neighborhoods that we grew up in, we were all of mixed status households, and so it's always been something dear.
So right now, with everything that's been happening with the administration, like at least for me, I want the parents to know what resources exist for them in the community, how can they exercise their rights, how can they find family members that have been detained, and the district, LAUSD has done a really great job as far as like compiling all those resources for families, and I just want to make sure they know where to find it, you know? So part of one of the trainings that we did, or workshops that we did with the families, is that I made sure that all of them know where to find those resources.
Being a youth organizer, what that means is that I meet a lot of young folks here in my community. I grew up here in this area and went to some of the same high schools that we do work in. So I get to connect with a lot of young folks who have similar experiences that I did growing up here in South Oxnard, whether it be with things going on in families, because a lot of our youth are from immigrant families. There's a lot of similarities in those areas, but a lot of the larger part of this work has to do with environmental justice. And so once they're ready to take leadership, we go and speak to a lot of big industries, as well as calling for transparency from our local board, and making sure that as they have plans to expand in our community, that those plans are transparent and that our communities are at that table. And I think for me, one of the most beautiful parts about organizing is see people grow into their leadership. And what I mean by that is seeing our young folks come and learn about the environmental injustices that are here in our community and the environmental racism that has such a long history. See that turn from learning into taking leadership into it. You know?
But I got my footing in community organizing around housing, specifically with mobile home parks, because I had a classmate from college reach out to me from a Facebook post for me making like call outs in case anybody had any issues with housing or anything like that. And they had a mobile home park manager that was trying to evict folks during COVID. So then I learned about how there was folks that were not owning their mobile home space or paying to lease it or to own it. They were just renting it, which normally isn't like a standard practice, as well as folks that were Spanish speaking or regardless of what their documentation status was, that were being pushed out or kind of bullied out of their mobile home space with litigation paperwork and stuff like that because they weren't being notified in Spanish. Like all their notification papers or warnings were in English. And so it wasn't until like they were on the brink of losing their mobile home unit that they would reach out.
And here I migrated to this beautiful country, right, for a better opportunity to do better. So I understand the struggle. I understand why people come here. I understand that people only want to work and do better, right, have a chance in life. So I think one of the things that motivate me to do this type of work is that understanding what it means to be a migrant, understanding what is the struggle for people, right? And why are we just trying to get a better chance, right? A better opportunity.
And I really like the message as far as like, you know, an attack on one of us is on all of us, you know? Because I think it's really inspiring. And I think that's what's been missing all along, you know, as we see attacks on the LGBT community, as we see attacks on the on the Black community, as we see, like, we all need to uprise. We all need to say something, because just because something's not affecting us directly, it doesn't mean that we should be silent. Because if we do allow ourselves to be silent, then that allows them to do whatever they want with whoever they want, you know?
So doing this work, it is heavy. There's been many times that I go home and I cry, or I wake up and my heart feels heavy, right? But at the end of the day, I know that like a place where I can channel all of those emotions are in this work. And it is through that transformation that I can see hope.
Feels very good to know that our union has our back. We know that I can reach out to my union and say, look, we need help with this.
I think the union itself has provided us the opportunity to know that there is, again, always someone that's going to be there to help us fight when there is something that we would want to have changed, and open that line of communication directly with managers and directors that are able to help with making these decisions.
This really helps center and ground that if something happens while I'm doing this work in this workplace, that there's going to be protocols and there's going to be different ways that we as a bargaining unit have advocated for to ensure or make sure that we are safer when we are on the ground, to make sure that if we see something, that our concerns are heard, and that we can continue doing this work, even though, yes, doing this work is risky, and not only for ourselves, but for the folks who we work with, and to make sure that we have that set in space and concrete before we go somewhere, right, has been really strengthening and encouraging.
I think more than anything is like kind of like a safeguard security blanket, but also as a result of the process, I have a better understanding of how things are supposed to operate, like creating structures of accountability, which I felt that the organization lacked beforehand.
That we're able to like lean on each other, especially like, you know, when it comes to policy. You know, like we want to be able to see change in policy, because ultimately you affect so many people when it comes to policy. And being able to have the support of the union to be able to help us push, right? To speak to our representatives, to be able to help us push, and as we're aligned in the same message, I think it's heavily important, especially right now.
I think it's going to open up the space for us to be able to say, hey, other local nonprofits, like this union can provide you with that space to be able to say, if we know that this is a need in the community, it's that extra ability to be able to use those kinds of resources to get to more parts of the community.
It means that we're not alone, right? That we have somebody that is gonna look out for us, that is gonna protect us, that is gonna help us when we need them.
I think ultimately we just need to figure out how we can fight back, but fight back strong, right? And that's why unity right now is more important than ever. Because this administration is trying to divide us. And that's where they're winning, I feel, to a certain extent, because we're all divided, you know, we're all pushing for a certain cause. But I think we need to unite the causes, and we all need to push like a big wave, you know? And that way the administration becomes afraid of us, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to be working for us, not the other way around.
It's the moment to unite, and now is the moment that we can create change, and we can continue to be in resilience. But that can only be done if we're in solidarity with one another.